Top story, that's the state capture inquiry where Hlaudi Motsoeneng is giving testimony, and my colleague Manqoba Mchunu has been following proceedings there. Manqoba, very interesting, a lot of focus on Mr. Motsoeneng's matric or lack thereof.
Well, of course, Nompu, that is the issue that we started with here at the State Capture Commission. Of course, this has been one of the issues that has been highly, questionable as to how Hlaudi Motsoeneng was hired at the SABC, even though he did not have the right qualifications, and how he ascended to the position of the acting COO and ultimately the COO without those critical qualifications. Of course, he highlighted the fact that, he feels very insulted by people who say that he lied about his qualifications. He says that, there's been numerous media reports suggesting that he lied. And also the Public Protector's report in 2014, of course, you remember that that's the report that ultimately found that his appointment at the SABC was improper because he did not have the right qualifications. Of course, he says that too, he believes was a witch hunt to tarnish his name by the then Public Protector, Hlaudi Motsoeneng. But let's take a listen to what he had to say about this.
The only person who can say I lie is my employer. The person who went and headhunted me and the management of the CDFM. Those are the only people who can say I lied. Anyone who comes, I don't know, to be honest. And it is so painful, Chairperson, because media, people have been tarnishing my name about matric certificate. Worst part is Public Protector. I don't know what was happening in her mind, with due respect, Chairperson. Because here is the Public Protector. If you check the transcript, Chairperson, or you listen to the recording, I deny lying about matric several times. Hey, Chairperson, she pushed.
Well, of course, Nompu insisting that, of course, he was, the man for the job. He says, in fact, that, there were many people at the SABC at the time who were clueless about, what he was doing. And he says that, he believed that he had the expertise or the knowledge, the know-how of how to do the job, and that he doesn't really need a paper, so to say, with regards to doing this job. So he says, during his time, the experience that he had, the talent that he had, is what got him to where he was at the time. And of course, he says that, during his time when he used to sit in the board, he also used to make very valuable contributions. And let's take a listen to what he said on this.
I want to define education, because if we don't tell the truth about education, this country will collapse. In my view, Chairperson, I'm very educated. And I will tell you why, Chairperson, I'm saying this. If you check all the minutes of the SABC, you'll see 70% of the resolutions of the board or the resolution of the ESCO, I'm the main man influencing the decision within the SABC. So that shows that I'm capable. I have skills.
Well, interesting, Nompu, to hear that. Of course, you'll recall that yesterday the former board chair, Ben Gubani, had alluded to the fact that Hlaudi Motsoeneng, while he was stakeholders manager at the time, he had sat on some of those board meetings. But of course, he says at the time, he simply sat there as a communicator, somebody who used to communicate the message of the board to the staff and, plays sort of like a middleman between the executive as well as the board. But his utterances here, of course, saying that he did have a lot to say in the board. We don't know which time that was. That hopefully will still be made clear as he continues to give his testimony.
Very quickly, Manqoba, there's the issue of the application or a document that Mr. Motsoeneng signed around him having achieved a certain grade, which would insinuate that he had matric. What was he saying around that, because he signed that document?
Well, Nompu, he maintains that, from the onset, when he was approached, or headhunted, as he puts it. He says that he had declared from the onset that he did not have a matric. And that question was raised, of course, looking at that application and the fact that, it had indicated to some sort that, he had passed matric. He says that no, at the time he had declared from the onset, there was nothing sinister about it. Maybe they might have assumed that, he says they might have assumed that, he was still going to complete some of those subjects. In fact, we see from the letters from one Alwyn Kloppers, who had written to him, as well as some of the HR officials, indicating that, they were waiting for him for his results, his completed subject, or the subjects that he had failed. They're waiting for the results of those so that, they could process or put that in their records. But of course, he says he had never given that indication that, he wanted or he was intending to finish his matric. He did say that though he did try to write his matric, but also didn't succeed. But, he insists, Nompu, that, from the onset, he had never lied about his qualifications.
All right, Manqoba, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much, my colleague there, Manqoba, reporting at the State Capture Inquiry.